प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। Hare Krishna. Continuing from the 13th chapter of the first canto, Dhritarashtra finally quits home. In the last section that we discussed yesterday, what we saw that Dhritarashtra, followed by his chaste wife Gandhari, very quietly and with determination, they left home. And why did they leave home? What was the purpose? Why did they leave home? They were enthusiastic for a better future. One can only take to renunciation, which is one of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. Renunciation is also an opulence. But this opulence attracts only those who are awakened in knowledge. And we see at the fag end of his life, Dhritarashtra is awakened in knowledge by the sharp words of Mahatma Vidur. And we also discussed that one has to come to the stage of at least become a dhira. Then the spiritual elevation can begin. Before that, one remains attached and in the mire of material existence. So from dhira, one has the possibility to become a paramhamsa, a narottama. So Dhritarashtra is mentioned that he could not become a narottama, but by the guidance of Vidura, definitely he became a dhira. He accepted the Vanaprastha order, and Gandhari, his chaste wife, voluntarily followed him. And when they leave home, they are not to be seen in the palace of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Maharaj Yudhishthir laments. Maharaj Yudhishthir laments, and he approaches the secretary of Dhritarashtra, Sanjaya. So Sanjay also is overwhelmed with compassion, and he says that he is not aware. Even Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. So actually this is a fact. If somebody has to make a spiritual elevation, one moment, there is a festival tomorrow. Tomorrow also is the 51st anniversary of the establishment of Sri Radha Parsarthi. We will be celebrating it. So at least you can watch online and pray to their lordships. 51 years back, Srila Prabhupada established Sri Radha Parsarthi in Indraprastha. And they've had a long journey. And finally, they have been in east of Kailash for almost last 26 years. Okay. So we'll continue what Sanjay is speaking to Maharaj Yudhishthir. Because of compassion and mental agitation, Sanjay, not having seen his own master Dhritarashtra, was aggrieved and could not properly reply to Maharaj Yudhishthira. And Prabhupada writes in the purport that Dhritarashtra left home without his knowledge. If someone has to, I was making this point. Recently, I knew someone who was asked to take a step forward in the renounced life. He did not take a step forward, but he, spread the word around. And what happened? He was dragged back. So those who are really serious, they do not make a show of it. And if you have to really move ahead in spiritual life, you should be determined and move forward. And not make the world know that you want to take a step ahead in the spiritual life. We should learn from Dhritarashtra. So his renunciation was successful. Otherwise, people just make a show of renunciation. They don't want to renounce. They just want to gain even some cheap popularity. And why he renounced? Because he was convinced. The Prabhupada is saying, unless one is convinced of a better life after renunciation of the present, one cannot stick to the renounced order of life simply by artificial dress or staying out of home. Going forward. Vimrijye ashruni panibhyam vishthabhya atmanam atmana ajat shatrum pratyuche prabhu pandava anusmaran. I think we did this verse. So first he slowly pacified his mind by intelligence, and wiping away his tears and thinking of the feet of his master Dhritarashtra, he began to reply to Maharaj Yudhishthira. So this was the emotional outburst of Sanjay. Sanjay Uvacha Naham Veda Vyavasitam Pitrorva Kulanandana Gandharya Va Mahabaho Mushito Asmi Mahatma Bhi. Sanjay said, my dear descendant of the Kuru dynasty, I have no information of the determination of your two uncles and Gandhari, O king. I have been cheated by these great souls. The great souls cheat others may be astonishing to know, but it is a fact that great souls cheat others for a great cause. It is said that Lord Krishna also advised Yudhishthira to tell a lie before Dronacharya. And it was also for a great cause. And the Lord wanted it, and therefore it was a great cause. Satisfaction of the Lord is the criteria of what is bona fide. And the highest perfection of life is to satisfy the Lord by one's occupational duty. What is the verse? Highest perfection of life is to satisfy the Lord by one's occupational duty. Very famous verse. What is the verse? Then, of course, first Prabhupada talks about the cheating tendency. Satisfaction of the Lord by one's occupation duty is the highest perfection of life. All of you remember, I made all of you memorize this verse. Memory should not be so weak. Atha pumbi duja sreshta varnashram vibhagayo swanusthita sadharmasya samsiddhi haritoshanam. Swanusthita sadharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. Atha pumbi duja sreshta varnashram vibhagayo. So the purpose of division of varna and ashram is samsiddhi haritoshanam. All occupations, perfection is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. That is the verdict of Gita and Bhagavatam. Dhritarashtra and Vidura, followed by Gandhari, did not disclose their determination to Sanjay, although he was constantly with Dhritarashtra as his personal assistant. Sanjay never thought that Dhritarashtra could perform any act without consulting him. You see, this is very important. What is this sign? Hmm? That Sanjay never thought that Dhritarashtra could perform any act without consulting him. But Dhritarashtra, going away from home, was so confident that it could not be disclosed even to Sanjaya. So what quality was developed in Dhritarashtra by the association of Vidura? That he became a Dhira. He could sever all those connections. Sanatan Goswami also cheated the keepers of the prison house while going away to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And similarly, Raghunath Das Goswami also cheated his priest and left home for good to satisfy the Lord. To satisfy the Lord, anything is good, for it is in relation with the absolute truth. We also had the same opportunity to cheat the family members and leave the home to engage in the service of Srimad Bhagavatam. Such cheating was necessary for a great cause, and there is no loss for any party in such transcendental fraud. अथा जगमा भगवान नारदा सा तंबुरुह प्रत्युत्थ्य अभिवाद्य अहसा अनुजा अभ्यचार्य मुनिम अभ्यचार्यान मुनिम नारद मुनि is अभ्यचार्य. While Sanjay was thus speaking, Shri Narad, the powerful devotee of the Lord, appeared on the scene carrying his tambura. Maharaj Yudhishthira and his younger brothers received him properly by getting up from their seats and offering obeisances. Yudhishthira then spoke as follows. Devrishi Narad is described herein as Bhagwan due to his being the most confidential devotee of the Lord. The Lord and his very confidential devotees are treated on the same level by those who are actually engaged in the loving service of the Lord. Which verse is this? That the Lord and his very confidential devotees are treated on the same level by those who are actually engaged in the loving service of the Lord. Such confidential devotees of the Lord are very dear to the Lord because they travel everywhere to preach the glories of the Lord in different capacities and try their utmost to convert the non-devotees of the Lord into devotees in order to bring them to the platform of sanity. Actually, a living being cannot be a non-devotee of the Lord because of his constitutional position. But when one becomes a non-devotee or non-believer, it is to be understood that the person concerned is not in a sound condition of life. The confidential devotees of the Lord treat such illusion living beings, and therefore they are most pleasing in the eyes of the Lord. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita that no one is dearer to him than one who actually preaches the glories of the Lord to convert the non-believers and non-devotees. Such personalities as Narad must be offered all due respects, like those offered to the personality of Godhead himself. And Maharaj Yudhishthira, along with his noble brothers, were examples for others in receiving a pure devotee of the Lord like Narad, who had no other business save and except singing the glories of the Lord along with his veena and a musical string instrument. You didn't find out the verse? That the devotees are treated on the same level as the Lord. क्या बात है भाई? आप लोग क्लास में आ तो गए फिजिकली लेकिन एब्जॉर्प्शन कहीं और है. रविंद्र प्रभु आपके पीछे राधा पारसारथी का दर्शन हो रहा है. कहाँ है आप? Which part? Where are you now?
एक्चुअली प्रभु जी मैं मेरा गांव में हूँ इस टाइम।
तो राधा पारसारथी वहां लेके गए हो? वेरी गुड. भैया वहां पे लगा रखा है आपके उधर.
वो लास्ट ईयर का था, लास्ट ईयर जनवरी में आए थे ना।
कैलेंडर है
इस
ये?
साल जनवरी,
हाँ कैलेंडर है.
नहीं इस साल जनवरी में आए थे।
अच्छा अच्छा ठीक है. अच्छा बोलिए. कहाँ हम ये गुणगान देखते हैं? नहीं स्मरण हो रहा। रोज हम तोते की तरह बोलते हैं लेकिन उसको स्वीकार नहीं करते। साक्षात हरित्वेन समस्त शास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भावे देव सद्भि किंतु प्रभोर्या प्रिय तस्य वंदे गुरु श्री चरणारविंदम। वास्तव में हम जो प्रेयर्स करते हैं उसका मीनिंग से हमारा कोई कनेक्शन है नहीं, कंप्लीटली डिस्कनेक्टेड। देखो प्रभुपाद जी के शिष्य हैं हिज होलीनेस हनुमंत प्रेक्ष स्वामी महाराज, आप लोग नहीं जानते हैं, बहुत बड़े स्कॉलर है। तो अगर आप उनको बाहर से देखेंगे तो आपको लगेगा तो ही इज अ मैड मैन। एक्चुअली ही इज मैड इन कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस, ही इज अवधूत। Maharaj used to come previously. Many times he used to come, but now he's not coming. Mainly he stays in US and preaches. So he was saying that whenever we are singing, we should meditate on the meaning. We should not be more uh, captivated by this tune and the sound and the instrument. Actually, if we are praying, then we should be meditating on the meaning. Then we are actually in that prayer. So here Narad Muni is being said as Bhagwan. Why? Because he is a pure devotee, a pure representative of the Supreme Lord. Yudhishthiruvāca naham veda gatim pitro bhagwan kva gato viva ambhava hata putrartha kvagata cha tapasvini. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, O godly personality, I do not know where my two uncles have gone, nor can I find my ascetic aunt. Very beautiful verse. Kvagata cha tapasvini. Gandhari is being termed here as the tapasvini, Kvagata, where she had gone, where she had left for, who is grief stricken by the loss of her son. Amba va hata putrartha. Hata means to kill or to die. What is mentioned here? Hata putra, bereft of her sons. And she is artha. She is aggrieved. She is in great sorrow or tribulation because of putrartha, because of her putra, his sons being killed. Maharaj Yudhishthir as a good soul and devotee of the Lord was always conscious of the great loss of his aunt and her suffering as an ascetic. An ascetic is never disturbed by all kinds of sufferings, and that makes him strong and determined on the path of spiritual progress. Queen Gandhari is a typical example of an ascetic because of her marvelous character in many trying situations. She was an ideal woman as mother, wife, and ascetic. And in the history of the world, such characters in a woman is rarely found. Karndhara iva pare Bhagwan para darshaka Bhagwan para darshaka Atha abhabhase Bhagwan Narado Muni Sattama. Karnadhara. Karnadhara is like the captain. You are like a captain of the ship in a great ocean, and you can direct us to our destination. Thus addressed the godly personality Devrishi Narad, greatest of the philosophers' devotees, began to speak. There are different types of philosophers, and the greatest of them of all of them, are those who have seen the personality of Godhead and have surrendered themselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Among all such pure devotees of the Lord, Devrishi Narad is the chief, and therefore he has been described herein as the greatest of all philosopher devotees. Unless one has become sufficiently learned philosopher, by hearing the Vedanta philosophy from a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot be a learned philosopher devotee. Please note this very with the attention. Prabhupada is saying, unless one has become a sufficiently learned philosopher by hearing the Vedanta philosophy. What is the conclusion of the Vedanta philosophy? What is the culmination of the Vedanta philosophy? Don't get confused that, oh, I have not studied Vedanta. What are we studying? What are we studying? Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence and the conclusion of Vedanta. So here Prabhupada is saying, Prabhupada is stating here, that unless one has become sufficiently learned philosopher by hearing the Vedanta philosophy from a bona fide spiritual master, and from whom we are hearing from His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One cannot be a learned philosopher or devotee. One must be very faithful, learned, and renounced. Otherwise, one cannot be a pure devotee. A pure devotee of the Lord can give us direction towards the other end of nations. Devrishi Narad used to visit the palace of Maharaj Yudhishthir because the Pandavas were all pure devotees of the Lord. And Devrishi was always ready to give them good counsel whenever needed. Narada Uvacha Ma Kanchana Suchorajan Yad Ishvara Vasam Jagat Loka Sapala Yasheme Vahanti Balim Ishutu Sa Samyunakti Bhutani Sa Eva Vyunakti Cha. Shinara said, O pious king, do not lament for anyone, for everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all living beings and their leaders carry on worship to be well protected. It is He only who brings them together and disperses them. No, I won't be able to complete the 60 verses. Every living being, either in this material world or in the spiritual world, is under control of the Supreme Lord. You see the discourse of Narad Muni, how he pacifies both. He is pacifying Yudhishthir and also Sanjay. Every living being, either in this material world or in the spiritual world, is under the control of the Supreme Lord. What is the verse? Every living being, either in this material world or in the spiritual world, is under the control of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. Should be knowing. Bhagavad Gita should be flowing. What is the verse? इधर है, हृदय किधर है? सुन नहीं रहा है वो कहीं और ही एब्जॉर्ब है. बोलो कौन सा वर्स है? Actually, when we are reading Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita should flow. I have seen in one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, very amazing. Whenever he gives Srimad Bhagavatam class, I carry my Bhagavad Gita copy with me. Because in that class, he will at least quote 20 to 30 verses of Bhagavad Gita. His Holiness Prahladanand Swami Maharaj. Actually, if you will see, if you have studied properly Bhagavad Gita, every purport you will see, it is actually what Prabhupada is explaining is Bhagavad Gita. Which verse is this? Basic is not known. I will not reveal. I will continue. Every living being, either in this material world or in the spiritual world, is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravardate. See the translation. It's the same translation. That either in the spiritual world or in the material world, everything is emanating. He is the source. He is the foundation. He is in control. The personality of Godhead. Beginning from Brahmaji, the leader of this universe, down to the insignificant ant. All are abiding by the orders of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the constitutional position of the living being is subordination under the control of the Lord. The foolish living beings, especially men, artificially rebel against the law of the Supreme and thus becomes chastised as an asura or lawbreaker. By the order of the Supreme Lord, a living being is placed in a particular position and is again shifted from that place. Nobody can violate the order of the Supreme Lord or his authorized agents. Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Maharaj Yudhishthir, or in modern history, Napoleon, Akbar, Alexander, Gandhi, Subhash, and Nehru. All are servants of the Lord, and they are placed in and removed from their respective positions by the supreme will of the Lord. None of them is independent. Even though such men or leaders rebel so as not to recognize the supremacy of the Lord, and they are put under still more rigorous laws of the material world by different miseries. Only the foolish man therefore says that there is no God. Maharaj Yudhishthir was being convinced of this naked truth because he was greatly overwhelmed by the sudden departure of old uncles and aunt. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was placed in that position according to his past deed. He had already suffered or enjoyed the benefits accrued to him in his past, but due to his good luck, somehow or other he had the good younger brother Vidura, and by his instructions he left to achieve salvation by closing all accounts in the material world. What a purport. By his instruction he left to achieve salvation by closing all accounts in the material world. That should be the aspiration. When we will close all the accounts in this material world. Ordinarily, one cannot change the course of one's due happiness and distress by plan. Everyone has to accept them as they come under the subtle arrangements of Kala or invincible time. There is no use trying to counteract them. The best thing is therefore that one should endeavor to achieve salvation. And this prerogative is given only to men because of his developed condition of mental activities and intelligence. Only for men are there different Vedic instructions for attainment of salvation during the human form of existence. One who misuses this opportunity of advanced intelligence is verily condemned and put into different types of miseries, either in the present life or in the future. That is the way the Supreme controls everyone. I'll stop here. I have some services. Okay, so we see how much of knowledge and awakening is there. First, it was by Vidurji, and now it is by Narad Muni. Hare Krishna. Any question or discussion? Just joined Pranav?
Hare Krishna Bhaji, yes, I came late actually.
Okay. Try to hear and try to read also. Should read, otherwise you will not get opportunity. Rare are the souls now who are able to systematically study every day. Very rare. That is Manushyanam Sahasreshu. So it is possible when we are coming in Sangha, at least we are forced to study. Okay? I don't see any genuine question from anyone, so I'm closing. So please keep reading. Please keep praying so that this thick, very, very thick layer of niscience and ignorance which is there all over our intelligence can be cracked by the sharp words of Mahatma Vidur. Actually, Dhritarashtra had Vidur who could deliver him. And what about us? Do we have Vidur in our life to save us? Very important. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंद।